Welcome, everybody, to the Three Gun Show. I'm your host, Dave Hartman, and with me today is Joel Turner of the Army Marksmanship Unit. Joel, welcome.
What's up?
And we're going to be talking about Joel's background. We're going to talk about the Army Marksmanship Unit. We're going to talk about training. And before we do that, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel here, and any questions that you have for Joel along the way, just go ahead and put them in the comments, and we will address those at the end. Joel, what's going on in Georgia today?
This interview.
Well, I'm excited for you to be on the show. So thanks for taking the time out from your busy training and all the other good stuff that goes along with that. Want to start with obviously this whole interview is going to be about you, but I want to start with a little bit about you and your background. What do you do when you're not shooting, when you're not actively engaged in the Army? What's your free time look like?
My free time, I enjoy long walks on the beach, book, romance novel. No, so I'm married. I've been married for about 10 years to my beautiful wife, Lakin, and I have two kids, Lorelei and Aiden. And so basically, as soon as I get home, I try to spend as much time with them as possible. So my life is not completely engrossed in guns. But I like it that way. You know, I need a little break because, you know, shooting is my life. So, but
yeah,
basically my hobbies, I like to fish, anything outdoors pretty much, kayak fish, hunting, stuff like that. I just picked up the banjo for anybody that's friends with me on Facebook. That's
yeah.
Okay.
How's that working out for you?
There's progress. Let's leave it at that. Just don't make me play right now.
Yeah. Still having a good time just learning stuff?
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, is there any crossover skills between the banjo and practical shooting?
Of course, yeah. I mean, there's hand-eye coordination. So I feel like my splits have gotten at least 1/10 faster.
There you go. You heard it here first. The banjo is the key to faster splits. Well, Joel, when did it start for you as far as like the shooting shooting sports? Did you grow up like hunting? Was that something that was part of your childhood?
Yeah. So unlike most of the people here, I did not grow up with a competitive background, but I will say the one thing, at least for the action shooting team, that's across the board, we all grew up shooting squirrels, going out in the woods, just walking around by yourself with a 22. That's kind of the commonplace there for everybody.
Yeah. You shot squirrels too?
Oh, yeah.
And so when did competitive shooting come in?
So it's funny you say that. I joined the Army back in 2006. I came in with a RIP contract, which is a regimental indoctrination program. They call it RAP now, to be part of the Ranger Battalion. That's just something I'd always wanted. And as the contract would have it, I went straight from basic to airborne school. And then once I graduated that, I went to RIP, graduated that, and was stationed at 3rd Ranger Battalion, 75th Ranger Regiment. And I spent my first 4-year enlistment there. While I was there, I went to Ranger School, Sniper School, and deployed 4 times with them.
Okay.
And so, go ahead.
No. You go first.
Okay. Yeah. So my first 4 years, you know, it was coming to an end, and I was kind of excited to get out. The war was kind of dying down, and I was kind of running out of stuff to do. And somebody told me about the AMU. Didn't even know anything about it, and they're like, I don't know, 3 miles down the road from 375. And I had gotten an email to, at the time, was Sergeant Major Barrerez. And, you know, he had spent most of his career at regiment. So he kind of had a little soft spot in his heart for me because I had a scroll. Got me over here. They were looking to stand up the instructor group, which they have up and running full speed now. And I was one of the original 4. So that was a long way of saying that I didn't even get hired to shoot competitively. I just got my foot in the door as an instructor. And as God would have it, I'd have to give all credit to him because, I mean, there's absolutely no way that this had anything to do with me. I've always had a passion for shooting, not so much competitively. Horner brought me off to the side one day. We were over at Krilling Range helping them out, and asked if I wanted to try out. And I'm like, yeah, of course I would, to actually be a competitor here. And that was about 2012, and I've been there ever since, man.
Oh, that's pretty sweet, man. That's a cool story. I had no idea about that. Is is your path then typical, or is that unique amongst your peers?
Uh, I would say more unique. Do you know John Browning? Have you talked with him yet?
I haven't talked with him yet. I met him at Rocky Mountain a couple years ago though.
Okay, so very very similar story. Him and I. He spent 10 years in the Marine Corps, mostly in the sniper scout platoon, or have I'm sure I'm butchering that, but he spent most of his time over there in the sniper section, and he went over to their combat shooting team, and they usually do a 3-year stint. Unlike us, you can come here and retire here if you want. That's a huge perk.
Mm-hmm.
And we saw a lot of potential in him, and brought him over. So kind of me and him have similar stories, but the common story is we're usually looking at junior shooters between 16 and 17, right there at that recruitment age,
Mm-hmm.
that show a lot of potential if they're not already winning, national level matches. So.
Now, when how old were you when you started then? In the AMU, like in 2012?
Oh yeah. Sorry. Let me do the math here. So it's like 22 or so.
Okay. Well, so you were like the old guy then at that point.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah.
It's like Major League when Tom Berenger comes back for one last go.
Yeah.
Well, did you find that having like a fresh start and not really being into competition, but having the experience in the Army was a benefit to you, or did you find it difficult to get up to speed?
Uh, that's a great question, but I would say that's more individual based.
Mm-hmm.
I will say the Army's come a long way in their strive for marksmanship excellence, but I would always have fancied myself as a decent shooter until I got here, and it was very experience. But if you come here with an open mind and just listen to the people that have done all the wrong things for you, there's a huge gap that you can kind of get rid of there, and that's kind of how
Right.
the story worked out. I literally got to shoot with the best in the world. At the time, Horner's still here; he's on his way out. But Horner, obviously, that's a given. Shane Coley, that now shoots for Glock, and can't leave my buddy Sweeney out there. Guys like that have done all the hard work. They grew up doing this. They kind of got me up to speed. It took a few years to really get the mental aspect of it, but as far as the shooting, they got me there really quick.
Mm-hmm. So that's really cool, and it's one of the most interesting things that I think of when I think of the Army Marksmanship Unit is how cohesive as a team you guys appeared to work together. So when you joined the AMU, what was the first few weeks, few months like when you were transitioning from instructor to now I'm learning practical shooting?
I don't know. It kind of came out of nowhere, man. Honestly.
Yeah.
I got pulled aside by Horner, like I said, and asked if I wanted to try out, and I hung out with them for about 2 weeks. Is kind of what we continue to do with up and comers, with people we're looking at hiring, and I don't know, man. I was so in shock and awe of even being asked if I wanted to be on the team that I was just like a sponge. I was trying to absorb everything. I was just like everybody else that comes to the team, like Browning, for instance, that had spent time in the Marine Corps, and this wasn't a regular thing for him. You tend to annoy people because you're like, hey man, will you show me this? Will you show me that? And like, you want to shoot when everybody else is like, I'm good for the day or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Not to say that we shoot a lot, but I'm saying back then, like, you're just wanting to shoot every second of the day.
Yeah, I think a lot of people can identify with that, because that's definitely something that we all coming into the shooting sports do. You want to dry fire all the time until your fingers are bloody, and you want to read up on everything and dry fire shotgun in your basement and stuff like that. So I think everybody can relate to that.
Yeah, oh yeah, definitely.
So then what did the training look like? Did they pull out like an IPSC target and they're like, this is the A zone, this is where you want to shoot? Or
That came with time. The actual fundamentals is always the most important thing. That's the foundation, not the scoring, more or less. That came with time. Obviously, I learned that as we went, because prior to that, no clue. Because I'd never shot competitively before. But
right.
mainly the things that matter. I remember, this is funny. I started with a Glock 17 that when I came over to the unit. And I came over to the unit, and Horner took me down to the custom firearm shop, and that's another perk we have. If they don't have it, they can usually make it. Went down there and got some competition sights put on, and that's about it. A slight trigger job, and he started me from there. Draws, multiple target engagements, and really that was where I was introduced to footwork. And that's where my eyes were open to how important that is. Like shooting, I got it. Like everybody gets to a certain point where you can only shoot so well, but then your footwork's where you gain the extra time. I'm sorry.
I talk about spring rates and minutia and different ways. Like, well, if I go this route on the stage, I can take 5 steps. If I go this way, I take 4 steps. So I'm going to go that way. So that is one thing that we enjoy. So don't feel like you're getting too far down the rabbit hole there. Okay. The people dig it. So
okay, good.
Well, so when you're drinking from a fire hose, how do you take all that information from the 3 mentors that you have in the game, bringing you in, and translate that into actual performance on the range?
Man, that's a really deep question.
I know, right?
Well, I don't know let me know if I don't answer your questions properly, but just to give you an example, a smaller example of that is, I would say not the shooting. Obviously the speed came, but the shooting, not so much, but like the footwork was my biggest thing. I looked like a robot when I would move left or right, trying to enter and exit a box. When they taught me that, that was something that just like I was thinking about way too much, where I was making it look complicated. So what I did is, at the time I didn't live at a place where I could go shoot. So all I could do was dry fire in my backyard because I lived in a subdivision. So I spray painted some square boxes out back and looked like an idiot running back and forth back in my yard with a pistol, dry firing until I got the footwork down. So
nice. So
kind of answer your question a little bit.
Yeah, I mean that gives us a place to start for sure. So footwork is very important, but you're getting instruction from several people. Like when you go home to when the range day is done, you go home and you go over to your painted boxes in your backyard. Like what kind of thought process do you have as far as like I'm going to put this in action here? How do you decide what you're going to do? What was most important for you?
Okay, I kind of see what you're saying there. So yeah, like you got like 3 or 4 people telling you do this, do that, but generally the foundation's all the same across the board, but everybody does something slightly different. So what I kind of did was pull a little bit from each person. Like, the way I start, the way, I rest my elbow on my magazine. Like I don't even like to draw without a magazine in my pouch because my arm is not in that same spot every time. That's something I learned from everybody really, but Coley, I will give him credit mainly for, like, he was real big on footwork, so I kind of focused on footwork with him a lot. Horner, obviously the shooting and everything in general, but I guess I don't know, dead end right there, but
no, that's all right. So then, what did you think that like the biggest thing that you needed to work on was, aside from movement? If you're doing you can go back to like 2012 and give us like a self-assessment.
I got you, fam. The mental aspect of the game, man.
Okay.
That was the biggest part. And I got over there and the bright and shiny wore off real quick. And that's when I realized, oh, wow, I have to actually perform to stay here. There's gates that I have to meet. and they're a little more forgiving when you first get over here, but the longer you stay, the smaller that window gets. So
Right.
really, really spend a lot of time in training the fundamentals and staying proficient at them so that you can stay on top. Because if you don't, there's plenty of people that email us from time to time that want to come on the team, and if we have slots, we'll usually look at them. So, I want to be the old guy on the team, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's pretty interesting how the selection process is. There's like an actual open application on, or at least there was last year when I looked on the Army Marksmanship Unit website, which I thought is kind of interesting. They pretty much opened it up to anyone, and then as far as I could tell, there weren't any gates or like restrictions at the initial onset. I imagine there are some down the line for selection process, but I thought it was interesting that anyone can apply.
Yeah, that's a great point. I think only a year and a half ago, maybe 2 years, we had to sit down as a team and actually come up with a team specific requirement to even apply.
Mm-hmm.
Mainly just to save. I mean, you'd be surprised how many emails we get a week of private so and so, specialist so and so that grew up shooting with their grandpappy, and that's awesome. It's got to start somewhere. That's where I started, but
Sure.
we're not usually in the business of not always in the business of just hiring somebody that doesn't know how to shoot and trying to hope that they work out. We're looking for people who already show potential. So we had to sit down as a team and kind of come up with, hey, what's the requirements? You can actually go on the website and find. I'm pretty sure you find a link to that, and it's kind of a questionnaire that, hey, if you meet certain requirements,
Yeah, so that's a good point. You try to find candidates with potential. What do you think it was about you that showed that you had potential?
Man, I don't know if you're going to interview Horner anytime. You might as well ask him that. So
I'll ask him too, but
honestly,
I
don't
want to
know,
see.
man.
We'll compare the answers. What do you think it was, and then we'll ask Horner and see if it's true.
Uh, we'll save that for another day.
All right.
He'll understand. We'll talk about it later.
Okay. I gotcha.
Yeah.
Well, so take us through like a day in the life of the of your experience in the Army Marksmanship Unit.
Okay, yeah. So unless there's something crazy coming up that week, we have a general 8 o'clock work call. We'll come in, we'll do PT, and then basically after PT's done, we have a time allotted to eat breakfast and then take care of any admin stuff. And admin stuff includes like if you're getting ready to go to a match, doing your orders, getting them approved, or doing your voucher after returning from a trip or something like that, or figuring out getting ammo shipped to the next match and so on and so forth. So there's that time. And then usually between 9 and 10 o'clock, we'll go hot and we'll get out there and hopefully if the whole team's there, we'll all shoot on the same bay together. We'll just rotate just like you would in a squad and kind of critique each other as we go. We'll shoot till about lunchtime, and then at lunchtime, we'll, depending on how hard we want to get after it, 30 minutes to an hour, we'll do some lunch, and then we'll get back after it until round's complete, basically. Or if it's
I got you. So when you're doing your training, like what kind of drills are you working on? Are you setting up like entire stages, or are you breaking them down into specific single gun drills?
That's a great question. It depends on the day and the match that's coming up. And to give you a current example, I took leave for like 2 weeks and didn't even touch a gun because it was family time. I was trying to spend time with them, go see my dad and stuff in South Carolina. So
Sure.
I didn't even touch a gun. So I came back and I didn't expect to go hop on a stage and crush it. So I did. And usually a good rule of thumb is we'll do 20 alpha with a pistol, like our modified version, where we'll start at 5, 10, 15, and 20 and do 5 rounds each as fast as you can accurately engage the A zone. So it's just kind of a good recalibration thing that works on everything, all the basic fundamentals.
Sure. Now, is that a time drill?
Kind of team internal.
Okay.
So like 20 yards, if I can keep 5 rounds in the alpha at about to an 2.5 to 2.75, I feel like that's okay. I have to do that every now and then as a 3-gunner because I'm like 2 on the cardboard, man.
Yeah.
You gotta keep it in a perspective every now and then. You get too sloppy.
Yeah, that happened to me. I got to shoot at the indoor range at Vortex Optics, and we were working with a guy who's not a 3-gunner, but he's has like a competitive shooting background. And the drills that we were doing, I was just like spraying them all over the place, and I'm like, "Come on, it's in the cardboard," and he's like, "Nah, it doesn't cut it here, man."
Yeah, that's another cool thing. Not to get off on a tangent, but the cool thing about our team specifically is, it's comprised of action pistol, 3-gun, and we have Tyler Payne that does PRS, and we all cross train. And if the budget allows, we'll kind of all go shoot a team match, usually at the beginning of the year. And that's a really good team cohesion type match. And it's really good. I mean, for a 3-gun, it's excellent to shoot USPSA. Keeps you humble, at least.
Yeah. Yeah, and I bet it is humbling to shoot with people on the action side that are, technically teammates, but shoot USPSA way more than you do.
Oh, yeah.
They show you up a little bit, or what?
I'm not going to admit that on the air. Yeah, of course they do. They're supposed to, right?
Right. Yeah, exactly. Now, when you talk about cross training, so you're going and getting, help with your pistol skills. Are you helping them out with other stuff? Did they ever pick up a rifle or a shotgun?
Oh, yeah. I mean, definitely. I'd say specifically Hetherington. He wants to one day come over and shoot a little bit of 3-gun. So I've taught him. I mean, everybody, obviously Horner's helped as well. But we've showed him how to like quad load and stuff like that. And he's like super eager to shoot 3-gun one day. But he's got his own goals in pistol right now. He wants to reach before going over.
Sure.
But yeah, and same far as me shooting pistol with them. It's great because like I say it's great, but like at the time you're like, man, can you just like Hetherington's very what's the word I'm looking for? Critical, if you will.
Right.
So you can run a good run, but he'll tell you that, well, that was a good run, but your draw was like 2/10 slower that time. And you're like, oh.
Yeah. Just let me have this, dude. Come on.
Yeah, I know, right? Just let me own it, man. But no, it's good though, because I'll take all the constructive criticism here, and hopefully it'll benefit me on the clock at a real match. So.
Yeah, I've found the same thing with myself when training with friends. Sometimes you'll have like personalities that clash or something, so we'll always have like a conversation beforehand, like, okay, this is our environment to give each other straight up, feedback, no feelings hurt or anything like that. So just let each other have it so we can actually have improvement in our game. Do you guys have conversations like that too?
Oh, yeah, of course we do. And the cool thing about our team as well is, most people that we shoot against, they're usually individuals. There's a few sponsored teams out there, but we get to go there. We get to walk the stages together. It's just like being at work. There's no difference. So that's kind of the cool thing. We can shoot back ideas. It took me a few years to actually like be able to, for one, do a stage plan on my own,
Right.
Nobody to shooting with Horner, to the point where I'm like, hey, did you see this over here, man? Come check this out. And he's like, oh, wow. Yeah. So like, that when that happened a few years ago, I was like, I'm getting it. Cause now I'm starting to show him.
Yeah, you just like walk an inch taller. Like, hey, my plan worked out there a little bit.
Oh, there we go. Did you get any of that?
Yeah, I lost you at you get to show him something, and then I kind of tried to vamp for a minute.
Yeah, it reciprocates. That's all I was saying. It goes back and forth. But it took me a little while to be able to like be comfortable enough to walk through a stage and come up with my own plan or an addition to so on and so forth.
Well, so y'all shoot different divisions. You shoot open division, right?
Yep.
Have you always shot open division?
No, I think I might be the only guy on the team that has shot all of the divisions.
Okay.
To exclude Tyler Tyler Payne. Yeah,
Right.
he may have shot all four of them. But yeah, I shot tac ops to begin with, so that way I could shoot the same gear as Horner. And back in the day, we didn't shoot different divisions. We all shot tac ops, which
Yeah.
was good for the Army when we're all competing against ourselves. We can potentially, the goal is to get a win across the board, every division. It helps with marketing for the Army. It makes us look better. So we ended up switching over. I took up limited, which is exactly like tac ops minus the 1 power, and that was humbling at the beginning. And I got fairly decent at that. And at the time, we couldn't shoot open; it just wasn't authorized. And as soon as it was, I was like, I went from limited. I was like, I want all of the dots on my gun.
So with you say it's not authorized, is there a reason the Army wouldn't allow open division?
No. I don't want to go down that rabbit hole. It was just a higher level issue of it justifying.
Oh, okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, because in my mind, I would think that if you're looking at like the Army Marksmanship unit, and what I assume is the goal is that the guns are, or the firearms that are used in competition are similar to what's used by the Army. And I can tell you, like, I haven't seen a box fed shotgun in any of the Army marketing material at all. So that does make sense in from first glance.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what was that transition like, and how did you guys decide to split up? Because yeah, it definitely doesn't make sense for everyone to shoot tac ops and then take first, second, third, because then you don't get to win, just like Ricky Bobby, right? So when you guys all split up and now you can play in different divisions, it makes sense. So how did you guys come to that conclusion?
It took about a year or so of actually figuring out what people liked. And we lost a few people here and there getting out and such and so forth. But I shot limited. I took over open, and then we just hired Staskowitz. And what better place for him to start off, even though he did grow up in tac ops, is to kind of bump him down a little bit and put him in limited. And I think that's good for him, because I'll vouch for that, man. My long range got really good because you have to let the sight settle.
Mm-hmm.
Target you can barely see anyways, but still.
Yeah, and as far as I can tell, based on what he's doing this year, it hasn't held Staskowitz back any.
No, not at all. That kid can shoot really well.
Yeah, he really can. It's impressive. I was talking with some of his former teammates just a couple weeks ago,
Okay.
before he entered the AMU, and they were saying like he's reached another level in just the short amount of time that he's been in the AMU. So it's kind of exciting to know him outside of that, and then see him make the transition. It's pretty cool.
That's what's supposed to happen. So
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? Yeah. I mean,
it's working.
if you come here and you don't get better, then that's a personal issue. You need to do a little bit of self-reflecting,
Yeah, I would imagine the environment that you work in every day just really nurtures the advancement that an individual can make if they put in the proper work.
Oh yeah, of course. And our whole command team, like, they make sure that we have a allotted amount of time a day to train, which is awesome.
Yeah,
Whatever we need, we get.
that's great. It's great to have that support, and it's what you would expect from the Army. Well, Joel, so tell us about Open Division, man.
I'm never going back to anything else.
Really? That much fun, huh?
Dude, it's awesome. I've always been the guy that likes putting all the extra stuff on my guns. So, and I get to try new stuff. And for the longest, I wouldn't use a magazine-fed shotgun because I just didn't consider them reliable. And I'm sure you can vouch for that. They weren't.
Yes.
So, me and old Jerry Michalik, I hung with him as long as I could using the stick loaders. I just got to a point, man. You get on a small stage that's real shotgun heavy, you can't hang with it, man, because I'm slightly faster than quad loading, with the sticks. But when you don't have to load it all, that's huge. It's huge,
Yeah, you can just stuff a new magazine in there and go for it.
Yeah, it doesn't matter the reload's the same no matter what, and you might as well just throw 20 in there most of the time, you know.
Yeah,
Even if I
abs-
go slow 2.5 seconds, I get 20 rounds. So
yeah, it's a good point. It's a good point. It's you know, that's something that I use a lot of times. So traditionally shoot tack. It's something I use all the time when deciding between a pistol or shotgun option. It's like, well, if I need to make a reload over here, I can get 4 in the same amount of time I can get 22 in. So
yeah,
having those extra tries makes it a lot easier.
yeah. You tend to push yourself too, and you know you got a bunch of extra rounds.
Yeah, find yourself shooting a lot faster.
Yeah, definitely, definitely.
So how's stage planning different in open once you made the transition? What's like one of the first things you notice about planning stages?
Well, before it was honestly not to keep going back to the shotgun, but I mean, if you're using a tube-fed shotgun and you're using stick loaders, your plans are almost identical to that of somebody in limited or tac ops. You know, I got the shotgun, man. It was a night and day. I'm like, where has this been my whole life? Because you know, some matches that allow options, man, I'll find myself shooting all shotgun. You know, it's really easy to put one slug anywhere on paper if that's allowed at the match. You know,
Yeah, no
versus
kidding.
transition to a different gun and then shooting it twice. You know, so yeah, man, that was something I was kind of forced to do because I was starting to notice. I was like, I'm doing all right with the stick loaders, and then everybody started showing up with these magazine fed shotguns that worked, and I was like, I don't want to, but I'll talk to a few people. So it was about a year of questioning people, you know, with the magazine fed shotguns and like, hey, they really work? I'm like, yeah, they really work. And uh, the Army Marksmanship unit was fortunate enough to purchase one of them for me because I couldn't afford one. Like I said, I'm married with 2 kids, so I don't make a lot, and what I do makes to them. So
Yeah, it's once you see the first magazine fed shotgun work, it becomes like a game changer, you know? Like for so I've been shooting a 3 gun since like 2011, and in that time, like in only the last 2 years has it been where someone can step up to the line with a mag shotgun and not just puke on every single magazine, you know? It's like I remember seeing dudes bring like 6, 8 magazines because they'd get 5 rounds into it and it would, you know, death jam and they'd have to go to remedial action.
yeah, you end up with a bolt action shotgun.
Yeah. Yeah. At best, you know,
Yeah, best.
or, you know, you see springs flying over the RO's shoulder and you gotta switch to pistol.
Yeah.
So how about for the rifle? Anything uh different
Huh.
on that? I know you can bring like the like a whole trunk full of junk out there with you on a stage. It seems like with a
Oh,
rifle.
hey, it's been a science to figure out how to pack everything in the same amount of space that I had before, and it's nearly impossible. Uh, but I've actually started packing gear that won't flag TSA into my clothes bag now because I can't fit it in my gear bag or my gun bag. So like you know, 2 or 3 different types of bipods now, and then I got rear bags like the pillows, normal rear bags. All you know,
Hmm.
I want to have variety out there because in open, you know, it's like the Formula Un. You know, like you're running race cars out there, like high level race cars. And you want to have every advantage you can because they allow it. So why not? You know. So I bring
Sure.
it.
Well, the bags are great because if you're flying with them, you can use them like as a pillow, take a nap on the plane.
Yeah, I usually just use the guy's shoulder to my left or right.
Doesn't matter if it's a teammate or not, just
Nah.
taking a nap. It's fine, man. It's a short flight. Don't worry.
Drool all over their shoulder.
Exactly. Well, so let's talk about stuff that you do outside of all the shooting. So your life in the army can't be 100% shooting. What other sort of duties do you have outside of the day-to-day practice sessions?
Yeah, before I get into that, that's funny. Everybody, that is the perfect scenario, but you know, people think we come and we shoot every single day. That's not the case because we are in the army and we do have to give back to the army. And the way we do that, we fall under the marketing and engagement brigade.
Okay.
Uh, Also, you got the parachute team and the mission support battalion. So, what we do to give back to the Army is we do like if we're not shooting onesies and twosies, whoever's available on each team will fly around the United States, big events like SHOT Show or air shows or something where a lot of people are going to be at. Fly out there. We'll take a table. We'll have gun demos out there. Obviously no live rounds for them, but guns that the AMU has worked on or currently working on, and just to really draw people in, because you obviously you pull a sniper rifle out there on a shelf, people are going to come up and talk to you. So
Yeah.
and that's how we kind of get the recruitment out there and draw people in. So they're asking, like, what do you do in the Army? What does the Army do? So
Well, what's the easy answer when someone comes up and says, "What do you do in the Army?" What do you typically tell them?
well, the easiest answer is just tell them what the unit mission is our unit mission is to win national and international level matches and to increase the overall lethality of the United States Army. So
Hey, you didn't even have to read that off of a card. You knew that one.
not to sound robotic, but that's what we do in a nutshell. So
That's a pretty legit mission, I mean it's very succinct, brief.
yeah, it is. But I mean, it's what we do. And although, the winning is up front, the reason why that is up front, because if we're not winning, then who are we to say that we're the ones to increase the overall lethality of the Army?
Mm-hmm.
Why would anybody call us to come train them if we're not winning?
Right.
That's kind of it's not like outside of here where, like, hey, we're not going to pay you X amount of dollars because you didn't place this high. This is a lot bigger picture than that.
Yeah. There's a little bit more on the line, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, when you so you have duties under the marketing engagement brigade, a lot of public relations type activities. So you mentioned training as well. Like what percentage of your time do you say is dedicated to training other people inside the Army?
That's a great question. Me specifically, fortunately, shooter, I'm allotted more time to shoot. If you remember, I was telling you before, I was one of the original instructor group personnel, and now we have 10 or so people over there. And what they do, they train big Army units as a whole, whether it's a MTT, like a mobile training unit, and they'll go there or they'll come to us. So they kind of take hold of the bigger groups of people. The action team specifically, from time to time, we'll get requests from like your special mission units, and we'll train them because usually they're looking for more advanced rifle and pistol skills that we can help them with.
Mm-hmm. And do you ever have people come out to where you guys are at and train with you there, or are you guys like the traveling roadshow?
No, we people do come out to us a lot.
Uh-huh.
And we also do demos for higher level people as well. And it's not just any demo. This could be somebody that would be responsible for giving us money, giving us a bigger budget in the future, potentially, So it's really important to, show them what we do and why we do it.
Yeah, one of the cool things about the AMU is you guys have like stepped up your social media, and we get to see all those demos. Like if you follow the Army Marksmanship unit on like Instagram or Facebook, there's a lot of videos out there. You get to show cool stuff as far as the activities that you actually do in demoing for the higher ups.
Yeah, I mean it's free marketing, man. I mean,
yeah.
Who goes to the bathroom without their phone? So I mean, it's obviously we're going to be on there, man. Nobody's looking at billboards anymore.
No, not at all. They're all looking at Instagram and lesser so these days Facebook. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't have to sound like an old man, but I can't stand being on my phone too much, but you got to evolve because there's younger people than I that grew up on a phone,
Yeah. Yeah, that's for sure. Speaking of being an old man, one of the most interesting things is like setting your phone down and walking away from it and finding like, holy crap, there's other things going on around me.
How do I even know what time it? Oh yeah, I do have a watch.
Yeah, exactly.
What
Yeah,
if
it's
somebody liked something? You know, you got to
yeah.
know.
What do I just tell someone I like that, or just give them a thumbs up, or what?
Oh man.
Yeah. So then as far as like let's talk about match season. Typically we see the AMU go to a lot of the same matches. Like I bet, me as someone who pays attention to the three gun space, I can probably sit down and draw up a list of like all the matches that you guys will typically go to in a year. Um, how do you choose like which matches you're going to add to the schedule if that option is available?
uh, to be honest with you, the best answer for that is we go to the matches where we're gonna be the most visible. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. It's
The
so
market portion of it.
so you're under the marketing arm. So yeah, it makes sense that you would go to the most visible, the most publicized matches.
Yeah, and that doesn't mean we won't go to occasional regional match or something like that. And even sometimes on our own accord, we might go to a club match, and that's just for personal training, just to get on the clock somewhere, before a big match. But yeah, that's usually how we're picking our matches is, where the other top level shooters going, you know what I'm saying? And where are people going to actually see us?
Right. So you go to like the deepest talent pool.
Yeah, that's the preferred method, right?
Right. Well, it's interesting though because I hear a lot of people in the three gun space like oh well the AMU is going to be at this match and then now it's an attractive match to go to. So it's kind of like a circular logic, the chicken and the egg kind of thing. So
Yeah. It's,
you
it's
guys do
very humbling to even be remotely a part of it.
yeah. Yeah, I'm sure. And it's cool that you guys attract the talent, but you go where the talent is attracted. So when are you guys typically talking about your match schedule for the year?
The year prior. And that's
Mhm.
where we kind of come into issues with, we're projecting to go to X match next year, and then we get the money for it, and now X match is not even going on. So we come into that problem, or we come into the other problem of, a match popped up, and we're like, that would really help us out in marketing, and we don't have the money budgeted because we know.
Right.
It was like, oh, we'll note that for next year. Basically, that's how it works for us. We can't just go to any match spontaneously unless the money's allotted and there's another match that was canceled or something and we can justify it. But other than that, we're going to matches we planned out last year.
Yeah, shoot. I mean that sounds like most three gunners schedule planning as well. Like that's even something I do when I'll get like an opportunity, now in July of like, hey, we got this match coming up. It's like, sorry, I got budget already committed for the year.
Yeah. Yeah. Trying to think some other non me shooting related stuff. We got the Fort Benning multi gun coming up again this year.
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool because it was nothing but like a tall tale when I got to the team because there was that big lull, and unfortunately I wasn't lucky enough to be part of the originals. And it was kind of a heartache getting it started back up. It took about I would say a year or so to kind of get everything ironed back out, but I think it's a pretty decent match now, and it's awesome. And obviously, it goes right back to the marketing engagement. Now we're bringing people to where we train. People are coming to shoot a match at exactly where we train every day, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, I think that is really cool. And I'm glad you brought it up because it is something that people have talked about quite a bit. Is it's a great thing that the Fort Benning match is back. So how like first of all, like why did you guys decide to do it again? And then what was the process like of getting that approved? Because I mean, civilians on base with firearms, right? That's generally a no, right?
Yeah. Now you're kind of getting kind of out of my realm of know all, but
Sure.
there was a little bit of heartache there, especially for me. I'd never been involved in it before. There's the main problem we found was sponsorship of the match because we don't go to the matches because of a prize table, but that some people they do have to justify why they're spending 2,500 to $3,000 to go shoot a match and they're not getting anything. So figuring out that part, we were able to go through the MWR, the Morale, Welfare, and Recreation I think every post has one, and the guy there he took on everything, and it's kind of hosted at our range facility. If that makes any sense.
Yeah, that's cool. So do you guys, as far as the practical shooting team, do you guys design stages and stuff, or is that
Yeah,
all handled by the
that's
MWR?
yeah. So we do we're heavily involved with designing stages. Now we do have a separate entity that's coming in this year, but they get we went back and forth a couple times with the rough drafts and kind of threw in our 2 cents, if you will. So
Mm-hmm.
so they will be designing it per se, but we kind of have the end all be all of what all is going to be at the match. So
Right, and typically the stages that we've seen in the past couple of years have been pretty epic as far as like digging trenches and filling them with water, and then
you have
having a
no clue what that requires. Doing
no,
that is to dig a hole in the ground.
no, I don't. I used to work in like for a government contractor, so I can only
Oh,
imagine
okay.
there's
So you
probably like a land study and 17 levels of approval that you have to get it, and then you have to house the turtles that were displaced in the digging of that hole. So I would
oh yeah,
imagine it was kind of tough, but it makes for some really exciting stage videos and like a great story to tell amongst the competitors.
yeah, and a big thing is if you're drawing it up on SketchUp and you realize once you put it on the ground it needs to be 2 feet bigger, not going to happen in time to get it all reapproved. So you better you better have your T's crossed and your I's dotted. So
Yeah, that's why you always have your engineering drawings checked.
yep.
Well, so what are you looking forward to as far as Fort Benning goes this year? You're going to be you've got a separate entity coming in. What kind of participation is the team going to have in the match?
Same as always. So I I can't speak for Horner because I believe he is on his way out, unfortunately. But uh, like if you recall, there's Fort Benning 3 guns kind of or multi guns kind of split up into 2 sides of post. There's main post and there's out of crewing. So I'll probably more than likely be running the main post side over on Shelton Range and Parks Range as the range master, and then we'll have a separate range master over at Krilling. So we'll have 12 stages total. But you'll see the same thing. It'll be AMU personnel as the CROs as well.
And do you guys have a theme planned for this year? Last year it seemed to be like movie theme, right?
Yeah, yeah. Thanks for noticing. No, not this year, but we are trying to get more props. Like last year, I feel like we were slacking on like actual Army stuff. That was one of the complaints we got before was, where's the sniper rifles? Where's the machine guns and tanks and so on and so forth. So we're going to try to bring a little bit of that back, whatever we can get authorized, obviously. But
Yeah, that sounds awesome from like a civilian perspective. I mean, that's one of the coolest things about being on a base is getting to see all the all the massive amount of hardware that has been accumulated over the years.
yeah, and that match is cool in a sense too that we get to give back now. We're
Yeah.
constantly on shooting people's matches, and now I mean to really appreciate what match directors and range masters and ROs do, all the staff at matches, you have to run one. And there's a lot going on, man. It's a lot of juggling, and I'm not very good at juggling. So,
So when the match is over and you finally hit the bed and rest and recuperate, do you feel like you got to make a couple phone calls to match directors and let them know how much you appreciate them?
I just make sure I do it at the match.
Well, as far as running the match or being range master, what was like one of the most eye-opening things that you didn't expect?
Oh man, there's a few, but as far as like running the main post side of things, like the stuff that people would bring to you, like where people at our unit would naturally just have integrity and it wouldn't even cross their mind to ask that kind of question.
Mm-hmm.
But that's few and far between. That's what I love about 3 gun community. There's a lot of awesome people there, but you do get the people that try to, you give them an inch, they go a mile.
Oh, for sure.
So
Yeah,
it's trying to kind of keep all that chaos consolidated. Because I'm telling you, if you let somebody do something, then the word gets out, and it gets worse from there. So
oh yeah, I've seen that at matches. In fact, a match I shot last year, there was a lot of talk on how to game this one prop that we had to pick up and carry with us through a stage, and then the first guy that did it the a way that no one had thought of and didn't necessarily seem within like the spirit of the stage design, but got away with it by the RO. Now everybody's got to do it that way, you know?
yeah, yeah, we try to stick towards more of the spirit, if you will.
Yeah. And then encourage the competitors to do so as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Awesome. Well, Joel, we do have just a couple questions in the YouTube chat here. So you want to take some questions from the audience?
Sure.
All right. So the first one is from Jay Christensen. He says, "What's up, fellas?" And so, hey, Jay. And then Riley Croft says, "How often are there openings? I love the Fort Benning match, and I can't wait." So those are two things. But I think he's saying openings in the AMU.
Oh, openings in the AMU, not the match.
Yeah.
I mean that really just depends on who's coming in, who's going out. Like right now, I think we might have one slot available. We had two, but we actually have a guy coming in. So
Oh, cool.
The shoot pistol, open pistol for us.
Now, do you guys have like a set number, or is it based off of if we find someone who's going to be the next superstar, we want to bring them in?
Yeah, that's a great question. Each team has their allocated slots, number of slots of people they can hire. Does that make sense? And then
Yeah.
we're just about full up. So that doesn't mean we're not looking, because a lot of the times we're looking at 15, 16, 17-year-olds that show potential, and in 3 years there probably will be a slot. So
Right. Okay. So the person that asked that, Riley Croft, he's a teenager. Riley, check out the Army Marksmanship Unit website, fill out the application,
there you go.
send cookies. I'm sure that'll help.
No bribery. All right.
No bribery. It's a gift. It's not a bribe. All right, Joel. Well, that rounds out the questions here. I do have a couple last questions that I want to ask you. Where do you see the sport of three gun headed?
Oh man, that's a really deep question for a while.
Mm-hmm.
Wasn't even ready for that.
I know. Should have told you about that. I'm sorry.
It's constantly evolving. I don't see it dying anytime soon because it's so applicable to what everybody's doing now. And the cool thing about our job is because what we do, a lot of people like we take what we learn and we can take it to soldiers. So just like everything, technology is constantly evolving. So we do as well, and I think the sport is, and I don't think it's going anywhere.
Mm-hmm. Well, so along those same lines, how has the AMU or maybe the way you guys train changed since you joined in 2012? It's been 6 years, so I would imagine you're ever evolving.
What's the question again? I'm sorry.
How has the AMU or specifically the way you guys train changed in since you've been there in the AMU?
I wouldn't say a lot at the core has changed. I mean, we've always been about training the warfighter. That's our main goal. But as far as like evolvement, it's our job to kind of constantly find out what the new hot thing is, to validate it and see if it's worth using, so we can promote it to people in the Army. Does that make sense? Not
Yeah,
like
for sure.
brand, but like the equipment.
Mm-hmm. Now, do you find a lot of new hot things that like maybe shouldn't be that hot that don't quite work out?
Can't go down that avenue with you.
You don't have to tell me specifically, but like, what's the percentage of like things that you try out and discard to the side versus things that like, oh, I'm going to put that for a tool in the toolbox and maybe figure out a way to pack that on the plane with me.
Yeah, I'll be specific to like stuff that gets introduced for for testing into the Army. That's another perk of our.
Oh man, we just froze again.
Good is it's going to benefit.
Joel,
And
sorry, man. You said another perk, and then I lost you right there. So,
yeah,
uh,
no,
you said
yeah,
something submitted for testing.
yeah. So like another perk, we got to get our hands on the M17,
Uh-huh.
our pistol, and got to validate that and test it before it even got introduced, like as the pistol for the Army. So that was kind of cool. A lot of stuff comes through us. Pretty much every sniper weapon system that's ever been introduced into the Army has come through our custom firearm shop. So we get to test a lot of cool things and some things that fortunately had never made it.
Yeah, that's a good thing that you get to be the filter then, that it doesn't just permeate, and now you got to work to get it out, because I know in large organizations the inertia takes over, and it's hard to make that change once it's been adopted.
Yeah.
All right, well, Joel, we're going to work to wrap up here on our time. I really appreciate you taking the time and making the appointment and coming away from the range to do the three gun show here. If you can leave the audience with one thought or one piece of advice, either three gun related or practical shooting, what would it be?
Don't make excuses. Just get out there and train.
I like it, man. It's a great way to end the show.
Hey, let me add, I got a little note here. I
Sure.
told usamu.com, that's no longer in existence. So if somebody does want to look us up specifically, you'd go to goarmy.com/AMU. So,
All right. GoArmy.com/AMU. And for the replay on this, if you're listening to the podcast later, we will include that in the show notes. Joel, this has been great, man. Thank you so much for taking the time to be on the Three Gun Show, man. I really appreciate it.
yeah, thanks for having me, man. I can't wait to go home and watch this.